So what made me stick to the vegan diet for so long? I was plant-based for 8 years and I was whole foods plant-based, high carb, low fat, barely cooking with any oils at my house. And I didn't feel well, but my blood tests were amazing, but I didn't feel well. So what made me stick to a diet that did not make me feel well? Well, I will tell you, and it has to do with partly what to do in the Bible. And in the Bible, specifically King James, if you read throughout the Bible, especially Genesis, in the beginning chapters of Genesis, you'll find out that Adam and Eve were the first human beings on this planet, right? They were a great, 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 great grandfather, great, 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 great grandfather, and grandmother. And they actually were plant-based in the garden. Like in the garden where it was no killings, no predators, no meat no animal that was cut down in order for them to eat. There was no mention of that. If anything, there was mention of herbs and fruits being eaten by Adam and Eve. If anything, there was fruits and herbs and nuts being eaten by Adam and Eve. There was mention of that, but there was no mention of Adam and Eve eating meat until later on in the Bible. And if anything, God actually killed an animal to cover their mistakes, their sins, by killing an animal and making a coat for each of them to cover their bodies, because now they realized they were naked the whole time. But anyway, I mention all of this because in Genesis, it does mention that Adam and Eve only ate in the garden that was fruit, herbs, plants, but they did not eat. And actually what God would say is the fruit of the tree, the seed of the tree is what he referred to them eating. But they did not eat animals. They were not eating that. And that's what I took from the Bible was, okay, what I'm doing is correct. You know, Adam and Eve were plant-based, so that this further proves that plant-based is healthy. But why don't I feel good? But what I didn't realize is that when I was reading the Bible, throughout the Bible, when I was reading, Genesis, the middle of the Bible in the Old Testament to the New Testament, God allows you to eat meat. And he says so directly in the Bible. And it's because we no longer live in a world where there's much abundance. In the Garden of Eden, there was a lot of abundance. Everything was optimal. Nothing was degrading. Everything had perfect nutrients. Imagine that. Like everything was just optimal, perfect. Adam and Eve were able to get all the nutrients, the minerals from all the seeds, all the nuts, all the fruit. And there was no anti-nutrients, oxalates, issues with beans that make you feel tired. Like everything was just optimal and had no negative effects. Meat wasn't even thought of at that time because everything was given to them through plants, nuts, and fruits. So they were fine. But after the fall of man, after Eve and Adam sinned, God kicked them out of the garden and now they had to fend for themselves. And God cursed the ground. And that's what I missed. Okay, so God did quite literally curse the ground to create hard labor for Adam out of the result of him disobeying God. And what that means is that not only is Adam laboring very hard on the farm, the ground isn't as nutritious because God cursed it. Now it makes a lot of sense. So the plants aren't as optimal, they aren't as nutritious, and they now have anti-nutrients. Now they have oxalates and nuts, because now we have predators roaming around the earth, right? Imagine when a tiger didn't even think of eating meat. And that was possible back then in the garden, where animals who were predators now, were not predators before. So I just realized that when I was reading the Bible, I'm like, oh, wait a second. God cursed the ground. The ground is not as nutritious. The plants are not as nutritious. It's not optimal anymore. It has anti-nutrients. Nuts has oxalates now, because there's predators roaming around the earth and the plants want to protect themselves by creating these chemical compounds so that when a predator comes along and eats the plant, he feels sick and he gets away from the plant. That's the plant's goal, is for the predator to get away from it. So now when I eat vegetables or large amounts of it and nuts, I don't feel very well because I'm also eating not only the nutrients, but also the anti-nutrients, the chemical compounds that are not good for me from these plants. After the worldwide flood, if you read in the Bible about Noah and the ark and how the world was literally turned upside down, right? Like there was waters from the heavens that were broken and rained down to the bottoms of the earth, from even the ground underneath the ocean was broken up, and there was hot water. Imagine that, water coming from, not from the ocean, but from beneath the ocean floor, being broken up, and the hot water, because the ground underneath us way down there is super hot. And if there's water there, the water must be boiling hot. So imagine that breaking open, coming up through the ocean or even through the ground here, and it's boiling water and it's covering the whole earth. That means the land as well, and the people in it and the animals in it. And so it's consuming everything. It's boiling hot water. And so not only is the ground cursed from, Adam and Eve's downfall, but now the earth is turned upside down. So everything is just mixed in together. Like everything is not as it was even before. So now it's an even more dire state, the ground is. And that's what we need to consider when we do, at least that's what I considered when I started to learn more about health in the Bible. I'm like, okay, God doesn't say health, the word health in the Bible, but he does give stories, direct verses in the Bible that talks about how it is okay to eat meat. Because if you look at what he stated throughout the Bible, from the fall of Adam and Eve, the fact that he cursed the ground and the worldwide flood, flipping all the nutrients, soils everywhere and anywhere, like all of that accumulated in the ground, literally the ground not being as nutritious and being in dire state. And so the plants and vegetables aren't even optimal anymore. And so when you read in the New Testament in the Bible, you'll learn that eating meat is okay. And I'll give you a verse. Genesis 9, verse 3. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb have I given you all things. Luke 24, verses 43 through 43. This is when Jesus eats a fish. And they gave him a piece of a broiled fish and of a honeycomb, and he took it and did eat before them. And yes, fish is considered an animal. In Luke 22, 7 through 8, then came the day of unleavened bread, when the Passover must be killed. And he sent Peter and John, saying, go and prepare us the Passover, that we may eat. This is Jesus speaking to his disciples. So as you can see, there are multiple verses in the Bible from the Old Testament till the New Testament about God basically blessing people with food, but food that is meat, and allowing people the option to eat meat instead of the herbs and the veggies and the fruit. And because he knows that, the world has changed, the ground has changed, the nutrients and plants and vegetables and fruits have changed. So he allows us to eat meat. And that's what I discovered. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been reading the Bible for so many years as a plant-based eater, and I thought I was doing the right thing. But now I understand through God's word that meat is okay to eat. He allows it, he blesses it. And if anything, most people should be eating meat, because aside from the Bible, aside from God, it is more bioavailable to receive the nutrients from meat rather than plants. Bioavailable means basically how your body receives nutrients, and if it's able to utilize those nutrients and absorb it into the bloodstream to the necessary areas in your body, which we want. You don't want a lack of bioavailability, which means the opposite, which means you ingest food and the nutrients are just floating around and your body is not utilizing those nutrients to the right places. So that's why my blood results were great when I was plant-based, because they were just floating around in my body, in my bloodstream, but they were not being utilized to different parts of my body, understood? When I ate meat, I felt a huge difference. I felt amazing. I felt like I was no longer tired. I was no longer low energy. I slept better. I had more hair. I felt like my brain can think faster. Before it just thought very slowly and it was very forgetful. But when I started to eat meat again, my brain just worked faster. And it's because the bioavailability in meat, the nutrients in meat, are just so much more effective for your body. Your body's able to process it better. And that's why I promote the carnivore diet, because it's helped me so much. Meat has specifically helped me heal my body so much. And it has changed different areas of my life for the better. And so I hope you enjoy this video, you guys. I know that I don't often talk about the Bible and God in my videos, but I do want to talk more about him and his word, because I think that it would help a lot of people. It's helped me, and I just want to help you. So if you are someone who is struggling with their gut issues and you don't know what to do, you don't know who to talk to about this, I specifically created a free video guide just for you about the 7 mistakes that you are committing to not heal your gut. Okay, place it down below in the description box, and I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.